So I keep forgetting that I have bad lighting in this room. I turned a different light on today. It's not pro lighting, but I still have something I need to talk about docu-pletion forms. I have this little proto set of chapters for the book I'm working on, and I put together a 111-page PDF. It's the last post on my Facebook here. I'll put a link to it below in this video title. But it's a series of different email conversations I've had with different people. Nicholas over at Cognito Forms, Jeremy Clark at WebMerge. I guess last year, I missed this. I was paying attention to some of the other companies. I wasn't looking at WebMerge. We've been working on some internal parts of our program. It's a conditional logic information intake form that couples with a data merge. And we've been aiming at becoming like how Cognito Forms works and how WebMerge works. FormStack acquired WebMerge, though, and I missed it last year. I was only paying attention to some of the email programs. I know FormStack merged with another document completion program. Not merged, did a nice integration. And Zoom Forms popped up. They're pretty nice. I started thinking about automatic document selection and completion when I was in paralegal training with the University of San Diego in 2014, and I registered as a bond and registered legal document assistant when I got out so that I could work directly with the public and complete documents when somebody told me what documents they wanted, but I wanted to know what type of online presence I could make and what I could say online. So I started looking at the different case law. It started in the 60s. I mean, it started even earlier than that. If you want to look at the true antecedent roots of what an expert law system is, it starts with the First Amendment, our natural and divine freedom of expression of self as protected against government intrusion by and codified in the First Amendment. A book and a software program are basically the same thing at law, except for people start feeling that software being seen as it's dynamic is a different thing that sort of becomes what a human is when they are using their unaided human intellect to wade through the factoids of a fact pattern and then do their internal calculations and then dispense or prefer a suggested route through a legal situation. That's legal advice, whereas a software program is already written. There's nothing new going on. It's already programmed what every single little response is going to be based on what type of inputs it's given. So if you have a whole checklist of options, let's say you have 5 questions and there's each 5 options, and it says in your situation, do you have A, B, C, D, E, F, G? You also have LMNO, P, Q, R, S, T. It's just any arbitrary set of options. When there's any different set of permutations of those options selected, it means there's maybe document A and B, or B and D and F selected, or G and Z selected, however many documents there are to select from. That's not advice. That's already, you could map out that decision tree. So it's pre-written, therefore it's static, though dynamic because you interact with it. But that is you interacting with a book. It's like a choose your own ending. That ending's already written. You have some fill in the blanks. It's like choose your own ending Mad Lib is really what an expert law system ends up being. And you have to think through a large number of eventualities to actually be able to encode a process of law. But that's what an expert law system boils down to. So there's different cases. Norman Dacey wrote the book How to Avoid Probate in the 60s, and he got himself charged with unauthorized practice of law in like 24 or 26 jurisdictions across the United States for doing presentations about his opinion that people could use the inter vivos trust to take care of their business rather than a will after they passed away, because the trust owns, I mean, this goes back to English trust law that it has come over into our modern constitutional republics, common law system, judge-made law system, that there is a trust that is an entity and it's formed of a grantor, a trust with a trustee, and then the beneficiary. So the beneficiaries are um, the heirs of the decedent, if you will, but they're beneficiaries of the trust. And the person who knows they are going to become a decedent is the grantor and puts their assets into a living trust. And the trustee is whoever the trustee is. The trustee administrates the trust as if the person were as if they were still alive and they just granted all their assets into it. There's different tax implications, but that's how that works. But he was just explaining it in these different seminars, and he got himself charged with unauthorized practice of law because there were all these complaints from different probate attorneys that it was affecting their income. Interference with prospective economic advantage turns into UPL. If any UPL is there, that's where it starts, is that somebody sees something and says, hey, I do all this work to properly do this type of work in this area, and this person's breaching their duty to obtain a license. Or in California, there's Higbee and Associates versus these guys who are out in the middle of the country somewhere. They were doing unauthorized practice of law as an unregistered legal document assistance business in the area of expungement. They were both giving advice, and they're also not registered. So, and then you have In re Reynoso, where there was a guy using an expert law system that he signed up to use for his bankruptcy, I think it was. Yes, it was bankruptcy. And he was filling out the form and everything. They had this vault, this secret tax and bankruptcy code vault, where they give you these little tips and pointers on how to kind of get around the system. He took exception to what it was they were saying to do, so he brought it up to some authority or another, and they looked at it and said, well, this isn't practice of law proper because it is still an expert law system, but it's a violation of 11 U.S.C. 110, which requires that non-lawyer bankruptcy petition preparers use only federal bankruptcy paperwork to do intake. You can only just have the form that you're going to fill out and fill it in with the person's information as you're talking to them, or as you already have it like written on a piece of paper, I think. There might even be an intermediary like that, but it can't be automatically infilled and selected from an automatic software, and that's what 11 U.S.C. 110 is. So it's a one-off about expert law systems being unauthorized practice of law because of the bankruptcy code, the U.S. code that specifically deals with bankruptcy law and non-lawyer bankruptcy petition preparers. So we have, at Apex Law Service, I do paralegal subcontracting, and we market for people who want to hire attorneys. We connect people to an attorney who, if they hire the attorney, we just introduce them. If they hire the attorney will use us for paralegal work. So we do use a partial expert law system to do information intake, but we don't fill out the documents all the way. We partly do it, but we give those to the attorney, and that's in our marketing. That's how we give the attorney their snapshot. And when the client hires the attorney subcontracts to us, and they ratify the work that we've done already as their paralegal work. And it's different. That is completely different than being a non-lawyer bankruptcy petition preparer who does that without an attorney involved. There's no attorney involved. So there's these cases that have just continued to build. Parsons Technology or Texas UPL Commission v. Parsons Technology. It's about desktop lawyer, and it was the same thing. A bunch of questions with options and documents that were selected and then completed with the information entered into the Conditional Logic contact information intake forms. But it was a compact disc or DVD, a drive of a program. It should have been a thumb drive, but they didn't have those yet. It doesn't matter. It's a it wasn't software as a service like DocuPletion Forms is a software as a service. So we have all these cases that have gone on, and I forget where I started with all this. I just like talking about expert law systems and docu-pletion forms. What I wrote today. It was the conversations I've had with these different people. I was talking with Cognito Forms about, hey, is there a way for me to use conditional logic to route only the data to select documents to tell web merge to select specific documents and then complete only those documents if these conditional logic questions are answered in a certain way. And they said, oh, that's a cool idea. Well, they did something in that direction. Not because I talked with them. This is a zeitgeist, if you will, but it's been going on for a lot of years. It's just that there's been more talk, like Stanford Law had a symposium, something about it, with a bunch of students who, they talked about, oh, could you just only answer yes, no questions the whole way through? They had a lot of things that I felt. It's just that this is not their area of law that they focus on. They're brilliant attorneys and juridical philosophers and students and things, but I didn't think this on-the-spot lecture had all that brilliant of a set of responses from their students, right? But this was the first time they were really ever thinking about it. So, I don't let stuff like that really affect anything about what I think about how right or wrong my solutions are, because it's like a reverse in inverse ad hominem argument from authority, like a hybrid argument. It doesn't make me right that they are just minimally dealing with an issue and they're very smart. It's like an argument from the authority of their intelligence, and then my view that they're barely dealing with the situation. So me dealing with it all the time doesn't make me right, but I do think I have better answers than what they came up with. That was only like a three-part lecture series, but I need to find that thing. But this thing I wrote, this 111 pages, is really just a bunch of emails. So between me and Jeremy Clark, I just sent in a question at WebMerge about the flip side of this. How do I use a conditional logic contact form to select one or more of their documents? Well, with docu-pletion forms, you can do that. We have Zapier connected now, so what you do is you actually, we're working on making an internal utility. We have one where if you take a contact form, there's information, it gets sent into this grid, and you can open in our data merge, our PDF filler. You map out the piece of information and the field in the uploaded PDF where you want that information to go. So you click from information to field, and you manually click fill PDF, and it fills it with that information. So it's a time-saving utility, but it's not automatic. We also have a PDF utility that is automatic inside the organic contact form, but it's not for uploadable PDFs. You write out like a letter, and people get that response, that attachment to their confirmation of a form submission, so it's filled in with their information. So those are two similar things. What you can do, though, is that we have conditional URL forwarding. So if there are, let's say there's only 5 different options that the answers to these questions would give you as far as a set of documents that would be completed. So you would have, what you would have is the first form where the URL forward would be to the next form that was one of those permutations of 5 sets of documents that would be filled in. There would be a second form that asks all the questions that need to be asked for those 5 documents. Those documents, that is one of 5 sets of documents, and then that would have 5 different webhooks over to Zapier and Zaps to WebMerge, that each one of those 5 would fill out the specific document. So that'd be one, and then you'd have another option. It would be all the information you'd need for this other set of documents that would have 5 Zaps to WebMerge that would automatically fill those out. I mean, you see how integration solves the problem, but it is, it's not the thing that people want when they look at a software program. They want it all in one. Like, you want that all together, right? But as it's been, pretty much you have to combine different programs. We're combining like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 programs together. But the end user, once you do one of these, you see that the person just gets they get 5 emails all at once, because When the first form goes, it just selects which second form they're forwarded to, and they don't even necessarily know they're sent to a second form, because let's say it's just options. You don't put your email and your name in until the second form, and then that one is the one that gives you a confirmation. Hey, check. You're gonna get an email of. You're gonna get 5 emails from WebMerge. There are gonna be 5 separate documents filled in with this information. Thanks for filling out the form. And then that'll be it. It'll be like 6 emails, right? Because it happens instantaneously. It just goes, it's done. It's in the email box. So that's one thing you can do. We are putting a few other things together, and then we are working on the first permutation of the final thing we're doing is the organic connection of document selection and completion from a conditional logic information intake. So it was just kind of cool seeing that FormStack acquired WebMerge, and that I had a conversation with Jeremy Clark of WebMerge. I've had a few other conversations. So this 111 pages shows some of those different conversations I've had with people. It shows a complaint I tried to make to the North County Bar Association about this lady who kind of almost pulled me into some criminality by implication, but that's why I quit and made a complaint. And I actually made a complaint to the California Bar Association. They took it seriously, gave her a cease and desist letter, recommended to the prosecutor's office that she be prosecuted. I talked with the prosecutor. They wanted all this stack of information. I had all this other work. I didn't get that they closed cases very quickly. I got a letter like a week and a half later. They said, well, we didn't get anything from you, or like 2 weeks later. Maybe it was 3 weeks. Time just kind of slipped by because I was busy and I was looking at the stack of 50 documents that I had to explain what each of them was to the prosecutor. The prosecutor is like, don't even know what unauthorized practice of law is. You have to honestly teach the prosecutor what UPL is. In Los Angeles, they know what UPL is because it happens so damn much. People try to take so much advantage of people in Los Angeles that they have their own department of the prosecutor's office, and that's also where the California State Bar UPL investigation office is in Los Angeles. So that's in there. This lady, I found more information about her. I sued her and won $13,000 in 2 judgments. But then in doing research on the judgments, I found she has 5 aliases and has been to the federal penitentiary like 2 or 3 times and has been forced by federal authorities to do mental health counseling. Because, I mean, I don't know where the mental health versus just criminality of lying to people and defrauding people, where the line's drawn and when people are supposed to start to feel sorry for someone. But I think it's just like a corner she's backed into to try to get the government off of her case, honestly. But you know, I've gone through a whole bunch of different things like this. My first programmer did something that was almost piracy, and I went over to the people whose intellectual property it was. I said, oh my God, I don't know. I hired this programmer and I don't know what he did. I think he pirated your software. And then I got an argument with the initial programmer, who's now one of my main programmer subcontractors who I use. I was able to, I backed away from what we were doing and changed what we were doing so it was okay. It still wasn't comfortable. I mean, I felt like I was forced into a position where I spent a few $1,000s and I was left with almost being a criminal myself twice. This is 2 things in a row where I was just doing work and then somebody else did something they were not supposed to do, and I had to back out of just a regular, what I thought was a regular agreement. The software was less of a problem because I was able to smooth everything out. The unauthorized practice of law was something that I was very upset about. So I made my complaints. But then, you know, having been born to him, you know, my father was on federal parole when I was born. He was a little bit of a smuggler, cannabis smuggler. And he did it behind my mother's back, too. Everybody thought that was a ridiculous lie, but he was just very good at keeping her in the dark. They divorced before I was 4. It just has always felt like never go to the authorities about anything. Just always solve your own problems in business by not doing business with people who are going to do anything wrong. So it just really bothered me to have to talk with the authorities. But I did it, but then I didn't. She didn't end up getting prosecuted. It was like this. It was almost like an intentionally deficient business grantor's trust, where I did one thing to stop this and to make a complaint, but didn't elevate to a prosecution. Just really felt like being a snitch, though. It's very strange. So I don't know. Expert law systems is just this thing I'm into for the ethics of it, though, because it upholds the law of unauthorized practice of law. It's not about getting around and breaking the law. Neither is paralegal subcontracting. It's not a sneaky way of getting by and getting your way. It is a very ethical pursuit of properly explaining to your clients that you're going to introduce them to one of your clients who's an attorney. And if you hire that attorney, the attorney will subcontract to us, and we'll do paralegal work for you for a lower rate than you can usually find across the law industry. We do $71, $25 an hour hours. I have independent contractors who work on the work. You can find law offices where they charge $80 for paralegal work, $80 an hour. So it is really a form of unbundled legal services, and we really advertise that number because it's the financial thing we do to help you, and also the other thing we do to help you is our paralegal teams. Most of them do that specific type of work only. There are so many niche law offices, so you go to one of them for family law, right? But you're going to an attorney who is just a family law attorney, and the paralegals I match with them are generally family law paralegals only. So it's just my marketing to give you a better deal and to take some of the headache away from the attorney. It's not my way of really violating any spirit of any law. It upholds the spirit of the law because the only person representing you and giving you advice is a licensed attorney. So it's marketing, it's First Amendment, and it's Sixth Amendment. It's your right to seek out lower cost legal services, and also your right to seek out dynamic software tools that help you to be a self-represented litigant. So that's apexlawservice.com and docupushingforms.com, and that's the basis of what I write about on naoldp.org, the National Association of Online Legal Document Professionals. So, I get into all these different, I've learned how to stay away from controversial business arrangements, but I get into discussions with people where they think I'm doing something wrong. I don't get mad, though. That's definitely not. One, there's no percentage in that. Two, that's a thing of all of our younger years. I think when you get to be 40, you need to learn to explain things, especially if you're doing the right thing and you know yourself to be doing the right thing, and it is a matter of simple, like, it's just parallax misunderstandings from someone else's angle. They think you're doing something, so you just have to deal with it directly. So that's it, and that's why I've become a consultant as well, to show people how to use expert law and document systems, expert marketing systems, and to be paralegal subcontractors, because there's really a lot to it where you can learn each one of the parts of it from somebody who's way more of a sales expert. Like, I listen to the people from ClickFunnels on how to sell, but the technical integrations and automations, those little things, it's just like that stuff can slow up your whole show. It's taken me a number of years to get all of DocuPletion Forms almost all the way together. So for me, that's what I focus on, to help you focus on the big things. You hear people say, don't sweat the small stuff. Well, pay attention to it, take care of it right the first time, learn it, and then don't worry about it. It is important. You're not going to get anywhere if you don't make sales, you don't present someone an offer with your whole stack of benefits, with what your solution is and why it's better than the other solutions out there. But you can just give yourself too much of a headache if you don't use automations in our modern world. So I talk about the little nitty-gritty micro integrations because they are what will confound you actually executing your offer that you learn how to make from the sales teachers over at ClickFunnels or other groups like them. I just really like ClickFunnels, so they're the only people I mention. But there's other groups They'll talk with you about other, like how to be a paralegal. Well, you need to know how to be a paralegal and or be a paralegal office manager to make sure that your paralegal independent contractors are doing the right things, or how to hire a manager who can do that for you. But it does not have to be in the full-time employment of an attorney. You have to only do paralegal work that an attorney client is directing you to do. You cut the paralegal department away from the law office business modality, and you separate them. You make it two businesses by just making your one paralegal business and contracting with attorney clients. So these are just the micro nuance of how to do a business as someone who is not a lawyer but who wants to be ethical and moral. I believe it's immoral to be unethical and to do illegal things in the law industry because of what it is. Someone is putting their full faith and trust in you. So you should never steer them wrong. Even if you're not the attorney, people trust you. If you are someone who they feel is well-versed and educated and well-read and experienced, and they just will trust you. So you need to really never give them a reason not to trust you. So that's it. I'm off my medium horse, my explanation low horse. I don't know. That's it for today. James Polk. Thank you.